Oh well.
Hey everybody, this is Nikki Burnett with Taste Life Nutrition. I'm a functional nutritionist. I'm here with Fran Gallagher, great friend of mine that I'm sure you've seen many times. And I'm going to tell you as we're going through this that we're going to play with the settings on this Facebook Live because we're trying to figure out how to see your comments because we can't see anything. So if we look funny, that's why.
If we look puzzled, not funny.
Yeah. So we're trying to work through all of this, and so you're going to have to just do it with us. Anyway, so I have talked a couple of times about, I've talked about cholesterol, LDL, HDL. I also, if you saw it, I did a post about, it was, the whole hubbub around how bad coconut oil is for us, which is completely incorrect and just wrong. And so they were talking about how we should eat canola oil and vegetable oils. And what has come of this now between us is Fran has had her own experiences with canola oil. So she has some sensitivities and some things going on. She was trying to understand what's wrong and what's going on with her. And so now we're here. So we want to talk a little bit about canola oil, what the problems are with canola oil, and how it's actually affected Fran, because it was kind of ugly as far as I know. So anyway, as you speak, I'm going to see if I can get the comments going.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
So I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis about 13 years ago. And prior to that, I didn't want to go to the doctor because I don't like going to the doctor unless I know what's the matter with me, which I realize is not always rational. But there was a day when it was the second day in a row that I was walking across my living room with a glass of water, and my hand had been so crippled with pain that I couldn't hold the water, but I didn't realize it, and the glass of water, second day in the row, fell on the hardwood floor.
How long ago was this?
Broke. It was probably about 13 or more years ago.
Get in there.
Sorry. So I began to fear that it was some kind of neurological disorder or God knows what. So I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And I was on meds 24/7. And the meds were awful. I would have to build up tolerance to the meds, and again, I had to take them every single day. And even though I was on an immune suppressant, which is how they supposedly cure rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune diseases, is that they suppress the immune system.
It's just to suppress the symptoms.
Right. And and by the way, what rheumatoid arthritis and any autoimmune disease is the immune system attacking its own host, the body.
Right. So it attacks your joints in rheumatoid arthritis. Hashimoto's, it's your body's attacking your thyroid. So it's ugly. It can happen to parts of the brain. It can happen to all. Celiac disease is attacking the colon. So it's nasty stuff.
And I am an intuitive, and I believe that I receive guidance. And so during this difficult time when I was having all these symptoms, I mean, if I hurt myself, I would pay for it for days because I didn't know that I had rheumatoid arthritis at this point. But let's say I just bumped my knee, I would have my immune system attack that area. And I didn't know what was going on. So I was diagnosed. I went on medication, and even though I was on an immune suppressant, I also had to be on anti-inflammatories all the time. And my guidance came in at one point, and my guide said, "You will not always have this." And I was astonished because this is basically an incurable disease, and I couldn't figure out, and they never came in a second time. It was like they told me once. So a friend of mine came to me and she said, "Fran, I want you to go gluten-free." And I had done some weird-ass diets, let me tell you. I did the nightshade thing, and I took gout medication.
No kidding.
No, a supplement that was a gout supplement, and I did this elimination diet for gout, which meant that I barely had anything to eat. And I mean, I like being skinny, but Lord have mercy, I was pretty damn skinny. And so I had decided I was never, ever, ever going to go on a diet. I wasn't going to eliminate food again. But this friend begged me to go gluten-free. She said, just try it for a week. And I, out of the blue, just decided that I would. So I did it for a week and nothing happened. I did it for a second week and my life changed.
Takes a little bit of time sometimes.
I was not unable to snap my fingers, cross my fingers, clap my hands. I couldn't open a heavy door. I couldn't walk very well the first part of the morning. My doctor fired me because he wanted to put me on one of what are called the biologics, and it's an injectable poison. And what a lot of people don't understand is that most of these autoimmune disease so-called medications were developed through their use as chemotherapy agents. And so they're not nice. So anyway, I think it was methotrexate, or no, it was the one that begins with an R. I can't remember, but anyway. So I became gluten-free and my life changed. And I will be gluten-free 10 years in August, this coming August.
You're an early adopter.
Yes. And it bugged the hell out of me that people thought it was a fad, that I was being gluten-free because I was just like, you know, a hippie chick or something. So for approximately 8 years, let's say I had 3 flare-ups. And one of the scary things about flare-ups for me with my rheumatoid arthritis is that it feels as if, not every time, but many times with a flare-up, the disease advances. So the disease will pick, like it loves my wrists, and it loves certain joints in my fingers. But then if it advances, it'll pick some weird joint. You don't even know there's a joint in your hand. Or it'll go to my knee where it never went to my knee before, or whatever. So flare-ups are really scary for me because it feels like it's brought one more joint into the picture, into the little nightmare. So again, I had probably 3 big flare-ups in 8 years. Well, in the last approximately 2 years, I was having flare-ups more and more and more frequently. Sorry. More and more frequently. And I thought it was stress, but how the hell can you figure that out, right? When do we not have stress?
It's hard to know,
So about a month ago, or perhaps 6 weeks ago, I suddenly remembered I was also having food sensitivities, and I was reducing my diet, eliminating, and you know, I was living off of popcorn because I didn't know what else to eat. I was eating almond butter and popcorn as sort of a go-to, and then I ate other things also. But so because I had, but gastrointestinal distress is what I'm going to call it, and that kind of interferes with somebody's life.
A lot.
I'll tell you. So I suddenly remembered a conversation with an employee, a checker at a cashier at a natural grocer's, who had told me, yeah, I discovered that my problem was canola oil. So I suddenly eliminated canola oil and my life changed. The flare-ups stopped. I had no idea. And the flare-ups, it turns out, because I went to a restaurant that uses canola oil a few weeks ago, after I knew about this, but a friend really, really wanted to go there, and I was willing to try it. I just thought, what the hell, you know? So I tried it, and what I discovered is a flare-up from canola oil happens in about 24 hours or less, whereas a flare-up from eating gluten takes 10 days.
Oh, so it's so interesting that you figured that out.
It's very confusing. It's like we have to be, you know,
you have to be
food pathologists.
Super in tune. It's hard. It's really hard. Yeah.
And just so you know, a flare-up it's so painful. For those of you out there with autoimmune disease, you probably know this. I mean, I don't cry easily, but I used to wake up in tears at 3 in the morning, not even knowing why I was crying, like waking up going, what the hell's the matter? It is crippling. I remember one day we both were in a business networking organization, and I couldn't go because I couldn't get dressed because my hand was so swollen. I couldn't use my hand to put my pants on. And you know, I find with business networking that wearing pants is really
usually is a plus.
So anyway, I have just discovered that many restaurants are using canola oil because it's cheap, the cheapest
It's cheap
one. And they are cutting olive oil. We found out that
This was interesting. She just told me this a little while ago. So pay attention to this because I think this is a big flipping deal. Oh, sorry.
that some of the big Italian chains are cutting
I would
their
say
olive
any of
oil.
the chains, but all of them are probably doing it.
But
But
they're cutting the olive oil with canola oil. And what I discovered is you can ask for straight olive oil, but with many restaurants, it's what they're cooking with. So my life, it has changed, and I feel so much better. It's amazing. And you know, I'm pretty pure.
yeah.
So like the other day, I went to Natural Grocers to see about their what we used to call TV dinners, and canola oil, canola oil, canola oil, canola oil. So
even if it's organic, it's not okay.
right. So anyway, I would just urge you to wonder if either gastrointestinal problems or autoimmune problems. So a shout out to acupuncturist Rachel Rose, who sent me, when I posted on Facebook that I figured out that canola oil was one of my problems, she sent me an article that says that canola oil is extremely inflammatory, which is what you've been saying.
Right.
And it triggers autoimmune disorders. So you might consider that as one of the issues, and that a solution would be to eliminate it.
So let's kind of take it back to basics a little bit and why canola oil is such a problem. Canola oil comes from the rapeseed. Rapeseed is pests, bugs, they won't touch it.
And it doesn't sound good, does it?
I know. I don't know where the word comes from. But what it originally was intended for was industrial use. And it, you know, is a coating on magazines and things like that. And so in order to go ahead.
Well, it was also used to lubricate munitions. It
Right.
lubricated torpedoes and missiles. I love that. So of course we should eat it.
Right. So makes perfect sense. And so in order to make canola oil and many of the vegetable oils shelf stable, because you know they've got to be able to ship it from the time that it's processed and ship it to all of the grocery stores, and how long it sits on the shelf, who knows. And so canola oil, if it's not been processed, if it's not been stabilized, then it has a very short shelf life. So I don't know the answer to this, but who knows, if it wasn't so processed, if it was actually just the oil from the rapeseed that had not been highly processed, maybe it's okay. I don't know that, have no idea. But what I do know is it's processed at high heat with these solvents that create a shelf-stable product.
Which means we can't digest it.
Right, yeah, which means it creates inflammation. The body doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know how to handle it, and it creates inflammation. So inflammation is the basis, and I've been meeting for 2 weeks to talk about inflammation, so we'll get to it hopefully next week now, maybe tomorrow, but probably not. Point is, inflammation is the basis of all disease. What causes inflammation? Parasites, bacterial overgrowth, food, stress. Stress shrinks the brain. Think about that. Stress literally shrinks the brain. Toxins, environmental toxins, heavy metals, all of these things create inflammation, and inflammation leads to all kinds of stuff. Leaky gut, which leads to autoimmune disease.
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's
is inflammation in the brain.
It is inflammation in the brain. They're also calling type 3 diabetes Alzheimer's. So it's yeah.
I never even heard of type 3 diabetes.
Well, if you've heard of Alzheimer's, you've heard of type 3 diabetes.
Ah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So many factors go into Alzheimer's. So be aware of that. It's not one thing. It's many things, including genetics and so forth. But getting off topic, inflammation is the key. And so these fake oils, these vegetable oils that are highly processed, when they're heated, they're rancid. They are carcinogenic. So stay far away from them. Good oils, olive oil, and this is something that we've been talking about, is a good oil is olive oil. You don't want to cook with it, but you want to be sure that it's not been cut. We've said this a couple of times. Be sure you know that it's 100% cold pressed organic olive oil. Were you going to say something?
Well, I just got a kick out of you using cut.
Oh, I know. I keep, now that I said it last week, I keep saying it. It's kind of
altered,
funny.
shall we say?
Coconut oil. If you haven't seen my post, I think I've talked about this. Coconut oil is fine. If you eat 10 tablespoons a day, probably not the best thing in the world for some. Maybe for some it is. But coconut oil is fine. Grass-fed butter, for those that can handle dairy, is a good thing.
And by the way, I can't handle dairy,
No.
but I can handle butter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, God has blessed me with the...
with the ability to handle butter.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of fun to... Not really. It's been a tortuous 10 years.
Yeah.
But in some ways, it's kind of fun to figure out what does and doesn't work, and it's not always entirely logical.
I'm going to tell you, that's probably one of the most fun things about my job. I love the science and the data and the testing and all of this stuff. But when I work with clients who start to figure out their body and what they can and can't have and what makes them feel good and thrive and vital and the things that just put them in the ground, it's amazing because I see it in their eyes. They're like, I know who I am. I'm figuring it out. Some foods are great for me and some aren't. And it doesn't mean it'll always be that way because you start to work through it. And for some things, yes. But it's an amazing experience to see the light come on in people's eyes when they start to figure out what they can and can't eat. And that's a journey that you've been through.
Yeah, you know, for a while there, so many years ago, before I got the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, there was a year. I can't even believe that I did this, that I didn't go to the doctor, but I don't like going to the doctor. There was a year where I had to take a nap every day because I always felt like I was coming down with something. Mm-hmm. And that's what autoimmune disease is like. You feel like you're coming down with something because it's triggering the immune system just like a cold or the flu would.
It's an overactive immune system.
Yeah. So I feel you if you're experiencing that. And then here I'm cleaning up my act and I'm eliminating foods. I'm doing the best I can. And I was often ill on Sundays. And it took me a long time to realize it was because I might have eaten out on Saturday or Friday night. And I would feel, so I'm going to get all weird on you right now. I did a lot of experimenting when I was younger with past life regression. My brother and I learned how to regress each other. And then I also experimented with, as a teenager, I used to dream. I used to sleep very large amounts in order to have dreams that would reveal past lives to me.
So interesting.
And there was a past life that I believe that I had when I was killed in the Civil War when I was 13 and I was gut shot. And what they did with me was lay me out in a field with other wounded soldiers where they couldn't do anything for them and they just let them die. And that gut shot feeling is how I would feel when I was sick from eating canola oil. And getting it again, it's like, shit, pardon me, but it's really an awful feeling because it robs you of vitality. So anyway.
No, I think that I don't know what else to say from that. I think it's true, and I think that's it. I'm sorry, I'm a loss for words now.
Sorry, I got us off.
No. I just think that we've made the point, and I hope that you will watch what you're eating. Even the big organic stores that I love. I shop at.
It turns out that one of the major ones, most of their deli items use canola oil.
You have to look at the ingredients everywhere you go.
It's true.
Because it's cheap, it's easy. It may be organic, but it doesn't mean it's okay. So you always have to educate yourself learn what's in it. Always, always read the ingredients and know what's in your food, because you may think it's safe and it may not be.
I just want to add one more thing. There are some gluten-free products that seem to have used rancid oils. And the gluten-free product won't taste good, but it's not necessarily because it is gluten-free. It's because of the rancid oil. And once you develop a taste where you understand the difference between a fresh, reasonable oil and a rancid oil, that's going to help you also, because you might be very sensitive to the taste of rancid oil because it tastes terrible. It's rancid.
Well, yeah, it's nasty, and you can smell it.
Yes.
I feel like we're kind of going on and on, but I have another interesting story that I don't know how interesting it is to you, but it was to me. I had some family, and I asked them if they had some olive oil, and they brought it to me. And so it was a big plastic, those big plastic bottles of olive oil. And
like
it was
laundry detergent.
Right. And it was sitting above their stove. So you heard me say you don't cook with olive oil, and you certainly don't want it in plastic. And they've been using this, but it's because it's a lack of understanding. I smelled it, and it smelled, I can't even tell you what it smelled like. Definitely not like olive oil, but some kind of plastic, chemically nasty. It was so rancid, and I don't know how old. Anyway, smell your food, smell the oil. You know if it doesn't smell good. Your body's going to tell you this is not right. So pay attention to what you're feeling and you're hearing and you're seeing, all of those things, because you're going to know. That's all.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys. We'll talk to you later on. Okay, so you can go to Fran's website and her Facebook page, Really Flourish. You can go to mine, tastelifenutrition.com, or Taste Life Nutrition Facebook page. Also, we would love it if you share. If you found this interesting, it would be super cool if you would share this with the people that you know and love, and comment, ask questions.
Yes.
We will answer questions, whether it's on our Facebook page, or maybe we turn it into another one of these sessions. And if you have suggestions, let us know. All right.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.